Everyone. Welcome to The Upside, the first show of the year. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I am home. I have been on the road for over a month. It was a month and a week, I believe. And so I haven't been back to my house since the very beginning in November. And I just got back late last night. First time sleeping in my bed in over 2 months. Um, and yeah, so I'm just going to spend probably the rest of today after this show unpacking and cleaning and doing all the things that my house has missed me for. But, anyways, it's good to be with you guys. Happy New Year. And wow, the New Year is always so exciting for me, but it's also always a little bit scary because I feel like I come off of a season where I'm very busy at Christmas. I mean, everybody's busy at Christmas for, one reason or another. But Christmas time every year has become a time when I feel like I'm really sure of what I'm doing. I really know what I'm doing. I know the assignment and I can fulfill it. And I feel very competent in the holidays because of my multiple Christmas albums and my tours that I always do. Then I go home with family and then boom, I'm back in my home by myself suddenly in January, and the industry is always kind of slow. And I just feel like it takes me a second to find my footing. And so anyways, it's good that I know this about myself now because it helps me to prepare a little bit. And then when I start to feel the feelings inevitably I'm going to feel, it's okay because I'm like, I go through this every year. It's fine. It's chill. We're going to be good. So I'm actually so far so good. I'm in my home. Life is slow. I know it will pick up later, but I'm going to really try this time to not freak out in the slow and just let myself be and let myself soak in maybe a moment of relaxation. And so wherever you're at in the new year, maybe you have the opposite situation. Maybe you go from enjoying some relaxing during the holidays and boom, you're back into like the full swing of things. And that's hard for you, but transitions, changes, they're always different. They're always hard for me. So I hope that wherever you find yourself, I hope that you're feeling, I hope you feel validated in your feelings wherever they may be. And if you're excited, hey, good for you. I do also find the New Year's very exciting because it is a time when we get to make new goals and, so yeah, it's this combo of being excited, but also being slightly terrified for like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? What is this new year? But anyways, enough about my New Year feelings. Whether or not any of you relate to that, I don't know, but I have a guest with me today. And I am so excited to have her on the show. She is a friend of mine. We've been friends for years. I met her through my manager, Adina, who some of you may know. I talk about Adina quite a bit. But Ilona Pamplona. And she is just an incredibly inspirational woman. She has inspired me a lot as I've watched her grow her own business as an entrepreneur. And also as I've watched her become such a leader. She's motivational, she's inspiring, she leads, and she helps people to find like their journey in life. She helps people to find their calling through she has amazing intuition. She also is a motivational coach, a life coach. She has a new journal and, coming out soon for all of us to dive into, but I'm excited to talk to her and just hear maybe, who knows, maybe a little bit of advice for this time of year as we all go into these New Year resolutions and fresh starts, and possibly, if any of you are like me, sometimes the unsurety of a new year. So I'm going to invite Ilona into the conversation. And again, thanks everybody for joining us today on The Upside. I love this radio show. I love getting to just check in with you guys every week. Hi, Ilona. How are you?
Lindsey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Where are you?
I'm in Nevada right now. I did a drive from South Florida to Nevada 2 weeks ago. I'm feeling mobile right now.
Oh my goodness. How is Nevada treating you?
It's beautiful. I'm loving the change of environment, but I'm also getting used to the cold again. I've spent 5 years in Florida where it's warm almost every day.
That's right. I always forget that Nevada does get a little bit chilly in the winter. It's like Arizona. It doesn't get super cold, but it gets that crispy, that desert cold,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to kind of the west side of the country. It's nice to have you a little bit closer. I hope you come out to LA to visit us soon.
Yes.
So fun. Well, okay. So I guess I'm just curious because I was just talking a little bit about New Year's and New Year's resolutions and all, it's that time of like fresh starts for everybody. So are you a New Year's resolution person? And how do you feel about this time of year in general?
I love this question because I feel like New Year's resolutions are so easy to break, right? We get
Yeah.
excited and hyped up about them at the beginning. In the moment, we might feel like we failed them. A lot of us tend to go into, oh my gosh, I've already failed. And
Mhm.
so, one of the things that I've been getting into a practice with that I learned 2 years ago from a community I'm part of is setting a word of the year instead of setting a resolution.
Oh my God.
So,
I've
yeah.
been doing this is I think my fifth year where I just pick a word.
What's your word?
Well, it was really hard for me to pick a word this year, but here, I'll let you continue and then I'll
Okay.
tell you my word. I want to hear the rest of your thought before I rudely interrupted you. I just got so
No,
excited.
that's exciting. No, it's so exciting. So I think the biggest thing for resolutions, I don't believe in resolutions, because I think when we're creating the life that we want, it is about who are we being every step of the
Mhm.
way, than the mechanics or the to-do list of what we get to do. It's who are we being every step of the way to ensure that as we're going through the process of creating the life we want, we're also being the person we want to be in that process.
Mhm. Yes. No, I love that. And that is so funny because, yeah, this is my either fifth or fourth year where I've just decided to pick a word I want to embody through the year. And it's been so much better because, like you said, it's more about who I'm being. It's not about like a finite goal of like about my body or about, like, I don't know, these weird goals that seem so achievable in one moment and then so discouraging the next. And so by
Mhm.
picking a word, yeah, it's more about like me becoming something that I want to be. And my word this year is shame. I just want to focus
Oh.
on, last year my word was surrender, not holding on so much to like all the little things that I think should happen, like, but just allowing myself to surrender, like do my part and then let go of just life in general. And it was a pretty freeing word to embody. And yeah, and this year my word is shame. Just, when we hold on to shame, well, when I hold on to shame myself and like, hit myself really hard for all these things and, feel that shame so deeply about myself, you find that you hold others to a certain standard that isn't fair for them either. Like life is a mirror and you treat people the way you treat yourself. And so I'm
Mm.
just I'm just going to try to cut that out. I'm going to take it back and stop shaming myself and stop the subtle shaming that I feel like sometimes I put on other people. And I hate that is one of my least favorite qualities about myself.
I have to say, I admire you for picking a word like shame because often we think of that word and you feel like the sense of a negative connotation. But I think we're entering a phase of life where we get to witness our not only our light, but some of our darkness so that we can not, like you said, not hold it so strongly, not judge ourselves so strongly for it. We get to integrate it as a part of ourselves so that we can move on for it with more grace and ease.
Yes, yes. What is your word? Have you picked one yet?
I have picked a word and it's pretty funny. I actually picked influence because I found out it so I'm a word nerd. I
Mm-hmm.
speak I speak like 5 languages, studied a few extra ones, and so I looked at the etymology of influence and it's an astrological term. And
Oh,
it means it comes from the meaning of streaming ethereal power, when the stars and planets are in a certain position that can influence or shape the character and destiny of men. And I've
mm,
been using astrology a lot in my coaching work, not as to like predict and create omens, but more of like, here's parts of you that you may not see. And when we can look at that, we can, like it says, like shape the character and our destiny. So who we're being and where we're going.
I love that. And also, the term influencer is used so often. And I've always hated being called an influencer. I'm not going to lie. But the fact that you just kind of shared some of the etymology of like where that word comes from makes me be like, okay, That's pretty cool. Like, and I love that that's your word for the year. That's really powerful. And there's a chat here, and Lori said that ascend is her word for the year. So, and anybody
Oh,
else wants to share what your words are, or if you maybe while we're talking, you can think about possibly if you do want to choose a word for this year. I'm telling you, it has been the most meaningful way that I've been able to actually have some success with a New Year's resolution is by just picking a word of the year. So, Nana's Nana's nonsense says patience is her word. Kat R. Jones said bliss is her word. Anyways, I love this. This is so
yeah.
nice.
And I see Jackie has, I know Jackie Tapia, she has the same word. We met up the 1st of January, and when I asked her word, we had the same word. So it's also funny when we see the synchronicities in people with
Mm.
the same goals, and we can hold ourselves accountable to not the doing, but who are we being?
Yes, I love that. I think that's a big thing. My friends and I all do this one word a year thing. And at the beginning of the year, we all tell each other what our words are. And then throughout the year, we like check in with each other. We use Marco Polo. And, we kind of talk about throughout the year, like how we're doing. And we encourage each other and share our successes and of little moments that happened where we felt like we were able to like embody our words. So, like you said, I think it's so important to have someone or something to hold you slightly accountable, but more important than focusing on like the negatives of accountability, like you said, it's so important to focus on like the positive side of that word of like let's share our successes that we have.
Yeah. Oh no, I think accountability gets a bad rap
Yeah.
because people have used it almost like you said, it's like this strict, inflexible experience. But accountability. So I'm like I said, I'm a word nerd, and there are words that like I absolutely love. And
Mhm.
accountability is just counting up. So it's like let's count up. How did you do? It's and
Yeah, oh my
when we
gosh, I
have
love
this judge, right? And we have a judgment. We judge words. We judge words and our experience of how we relate to words so much. And so when you realize it's like it's not to hold yourself against not doing something, but it's like a checks and balances. Oh, I said I was going to do this. Let me count up how far I got. Didn't get that far. So who do I get to be to keep on going?
Yes. And, we're all like little children still. And like science has shown that children respond so much better to positive reinforcement than negative reinforcement. Like, looking at the positive of the things a child has done is going to do so much more than punishing them for the negative. And so we're the same way. We're just adult versions of children. And so by looking at, oh, well, I succeeded here, even though it was a tiny success, it was still like that's a win. And I need to count up
Yeah.
my wins every day.
Yeah. Yeah. We
So
don't look at how far we got. So yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And okay, so I've always known you as this like really confident woman, this leader who's empowering and inspiring. Like that's the Ilona I've always known. And I was thinking we were going to get to talk. I was like, I wonder, have you always been this way, or have you worked really hard to become this way? Like, was there a big shift that happened, or is it something you slowly became? I'm just so curious.
I love this question because I think it's almost amazing to see how people see you versus how you see yourself. And
Mm,
I don't think I've ever seen myself necessarily as confident. I don't see myself as not confident, but I think they're like who I've seen myself always as connected. Like I am
mm,
obsessed with humans, and I'm connected and I'm curious. And so I feel like when I lead from curiosity and from connection, it comes off as confidence because I'm not afraid to see where talking to someone will take me.
mm,
There are moments when I don't feel that connection, and I don't trust that the connection will be curious and open, or I'm not going to be curious and open to the connection, where the confidence doesn't come through. And so this goes back to what you were saying before I hopped on, and what we're saying with the word of the year. It's like, who are we being? And when you know who you're being, it will come through in ways you don't even imagine. Like I don't see myself as confident. I see myself as super excited to be in connection with people. And
mm,
that's how I feel like that's how I'm coming off. I will say there were when I was younger, there were moments of me being a little more shy when it comes to going for goals. Like you and I have like a story where we were really connected to our dads. And so I always had this like I feel like I had a duty to my family. And there were things that I would play safe with,
mhm.
which didn't allow my confidence to come through. And when I just allowed myself to be my most connected, curious self, I feel like that's when, even when I wasn't feeling confident, the confidence that is in me comes through.
Yeah, that's so interesting because the way you describe it makes me think about we all have this version of, like you said, are tied to words, like what we think confidence means. And there's the version that we see in other people. But it's like by you saying, like, no, I'm just, I'm curious and I want connection, and it's like, oh, well, that's your version of being confident. And it's maybe
Mm-hmm.
not somebody else's version, but it's like when we're true to the things that make us who we are, it allows us to come across as like authentic, which I think is what seems to the outside eye as confidence. It's like, oh, you're being true to yourself, so you're comfortable there, and you're going to come across as confident. And to think that we have to be other people's version of confident, or what it seems like the world accepts as, being yourself. But when you're truly just owning who you are and what actually makes you tick, then you're going to find that version of confidence for yourself.
Yeah. I will also say I trust taking chances. So when
Mm,
I take a chance, I trust that whether it works out so it's almost like a neutrality too. Like I've taken a lot of chances. Like I literally had a 15-year career in higher education before doing this work.
wow.
And I just had a moment where I'm like, I trust that I just want to do something different and I can give it a try. And if it doesn't work, I can always go back to an office job or higher education because I have enough experience built there. But I felt this calling to do more of this one-on-one coaching work and more like public facing work. And I didn't know it was going to get me to where I am right now. And I still think that there's more of a journey, but I've been very trusting that whatever happens along the way is exactly what I'm here to experience. So I also kind of
Mm.
trust and don't put expectations onto how it's going to look like. And that also, I think, gives me confidence because I'm not being sabotaged by things not going away. I expected it.
Yes, I love that. And I think that Roxy Pitt on in the comments says, "Oh my gosh, I'm the same way. I trust taking chances." And I think that's a really special trait, and I'm glad that I have that trait as well, because I would never have gotten to where I'm at if I didn't have that kind of a very similar mindset to you of like, well, I have to try. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and wonder what if. Like, I can always come back. I can always, come back to where I'm at today and start here. Like, it's not like you're gonna take a chance and then just fall into oblivion. Like, no, you take a chance, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you have the rest of your life to like try other things or come back to where you were before you started that chance. So I love that. And I think that yeah, I also think that's a bit of a rare mindset. I've realized after talking to other people, like, and after coaching people, would you say that you feel like that's rare, or do you think a lot of people are bold enough to take chances?
Oh no, I agree. I think it's rare, but I also think it could be overcome. And I think the
Mhm.
reason it's rare is because my experience in working with clients is we've been conditioned to be safe.
Yeah.
And also when you think about our brain and we think about like neuroscience and neuroplasticity, right? Like our human brain is tied to our nervous system. And the point of our nervous system, the sympathetic, the flight or fight, is to protect us from danger. And
Mhm.
so for a lot of people, taking a chance is a scary thing, which
Yeah.
activates your nervous system to say, "Hey, we're in danger." But the amazing thing is the body is so subtle that your body doesn't know that the danger they're feeling is from a thought and not an actual thing like what the body's supposed to protect you from like facing a bear or being on a cliff, right? And making sure you're not going to fall. And so when we kind of work with our minds to say, hey, mind, body, I know this feels scary, but I know and I trust that if something happens, I have maybe a friend or a family or a backup job. Like there are sometimes we don't see the things that keep us safe, even in the face of something feeling scary. And when we overcome those scary feelings to see, well, what's on the other side of fear, then that's when people actually start to leap.
Hmm. So how do you help? I mean, you kind of just described it, but are there other ways? Like, how do you help people take chances when they are afraid?
Yeah, there's so many ways. So so I have a master's in coaching, but I also do work with astrology and I work with oracle cards. So when we're looking from a coaching perspective, there's like a whole, I always joke that I should put on my glasses and go into a British accent and talk about the trans theoretical model of behavior change, right? There's a whole behavior change process. And it starts with like really being aware of what's in our way. What are we afraid of? Like when we can look the scary thing in the eye, like face on, like head on, and like really name it and be super aware, that's when we begin to open ourselves up to taking the chance. But a lot of us have been conditioned to keep on working and not look at the scary thing. And so sometimes it starts with staying some time in what we call the shadow work and the scary parts until we feel like, oh, yes, this feels scary, but it isn't what's in my way. And sometimes I work with clients and I'll pull cards. Sometimes I'll look at their birth chart. And all of this is just information that creates awareness. All of the changes of behavior that we desire in our life starts with awareness of what's in the gap, of what's scaring us, of what we don't know. And there's so many tools, whether it's like just talking it out or using these magical things to say, okay, here's a sign that I needed in the moment.
Yeah. No, that's all so amazing. And it's so cool that you have so many different skills to draw from your education to your experience in coaching to the astrology, which I definitely want to talk more about. But I think you said something really valuable there of like not being afraid to see the scary thing. I was listening to this podcast of this little girl that has like extreme anxiety and all these, like, she's terrified of throwing up. That was her OCD issue, was just this extreme terror of throwing up for some reason. And she would have to, and so she was encouraged to like experience it and see it and realize that she was going to be okay through it. And if she could see it and focus on it and get past seeing the fear, it made her realize that she could survive this fear that was just overcoming her life. And so I don't know, I think there's something really valuable to that. Like you said, just seeing the thing you're afraid of and then realizing there's something past it.
Yeah. And sometimes, so there's this phrase of like, we know what we know, like, that how to play violin, right? And you know what you don't know, like, you don't speak Mandarin, right? But there are things that we don't know. And that part of life doesn't always, it doesn't always rely on just us to figure that out. We need something outside of us sometimes to show us the things that we don't know. So then we can then go in and process it. So whether it's like a coach or a friend or a parent or an oracle card, like something outside of us sometimes is like a tool. It is not the awareness and it is not the change, but it's a tool that makes us open our mind to see something different.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true, because sometimes we get so stuck in patterns and the way we see the world and the limits that we've put in front of us. And it is amazing to have, whether it's a coach or a friend or, or just someone else to listen to. Tell you, like, you got this. Like, we all need that cheerleader in our lives from somewhere sometimes.
Yes.
And I want to, you've talked several times and mentioned astrology. So I want to kind of skip ahead of where I was going to go. I'm just so eager to talk to you about this. I've never been, that much of a person who knew about my astrological sign or this or that. But my sister has recently gotten really into star chart reading and I found it fascinating. And so anyways, I am so curious about this whole world of astrology. And so I just want you to talk to us a little bit about like what astrology can do for you. Because like you mentioned, it's not about like predestination or seeing the future. It's more like seeing little clues and signs of things maybe you have gifts for, or maybe things that are going to be a little harder for you. And you get to have a little bit of help navigating your life. But I want you to talk about it.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about this literally for days. And I just have to like start with, I have been exposed to astrology since I was in my mom's belly because she used to listen to a very famous Latin American astrologer. So for me, like, I just thought everyone knew about astrology because we like spent all of our days listening to this astrologer named Walter Mercado. There's a documentary on Netflix, by the way. He was a funny dude. But what I came to learn through him. So like when I understood astrology through listening to him, it was kind of like a self-understanding tool. because, you know, in my family, we had 3 specific signs. Like almost everyone in our family was either a Pisces, a Virgo, or a Libra. Like, and we had some Taurus cousins and uncles. And so I was like, oh, this makes sense. They all share this similar trait, even though they're individual and have things that are very specific to them. There's like this bigger overall theme that they share. And so I learned astrology to be kind of like this map or this story, because I kind of see it as like so by the way, if you're not familiar with astrology, it's a method or a system where it shows you what planets were in the skies in a certain position the moment you were born. And there's the idea that combination has an influence, right? This astrological streaming information on who you are in this lifetime. Now, what happens is that if you are online or on Instagram, you see all these fun Instagram memes, they kind of polarize it, like the good and the bad, the good and the bad, but each sign has a spectrum of expression. Each planet has a spectrum of definition. There's so many things that we can look into it. But the way I have always used astrology is to get to know myself and understand the parts of myself that I didn't know. Like we all know our sun sign, like you're a Virgo, I'm a Libra, you know?
Right.
There are characteristics assigned to it. Like I'm sure you are overhearing how organized and perfectionistic a Virgo is, right? But there's a part of Virgo that's a healer. There's a part of Virgo that's all about healing. There's a part of Virgo that's all about being of service, and we don't always look at that. And when we understand the full expression of each sign and the combination of planets and signs in our chart, we get to have this beautiful, rich story of where we can take this astrological influence and make an impact in our lives and in the world of others.
Yes. I love seeing it like a map rather than like a predetermined thing. It's like, oh no, here's just a bunch of clues and a bunch of, like, for example, like over the fall, I just had a month where I was really struggling with like my mental health, and I was doing all the things, I was doing all the right things, all my breath work and my meditation and trying to be positive. Finally, I called up my sister who's, really good at, she's all into reading star charts now. And I just said, Jen, is there anything in my chart that's saying I might be struggling right now? And, by her giving me these little clues and signs of like, oh, well, this is a part of you that's being exposed possibly right now. And this is something that you're you might be facing. And because of this planet is in your, she used a bunch of words I can't even remember, but it just helped me to have a little bit of a map to get through like this hard time. And I'm seeing some clues as to why maybe I was emotionally struggling so much. And, I don't know, I just think that that's really, and then like you said, it kind of tells you your gifts as well of things that you can do. And this is some of your strengths, and, you're a healer or you're this. And so I don't know, I've really found it exciting to learn more about this and see, like you said, a fuller picture, because like your sun sign is just a small piece of who you are in the grand scheme of like this recipe that kind of the stars made you in a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that, that more and more people are like, I kind of love that it's becoming popular, right? And that, like you said, it's there. I don't know if you know, but there's so many ways to use astrology. Like some people only see it as this predictive tool, and some people are really good at kind of like predicting, financial forecasts and like, world history experiences because of all this. But that's like a next level of astrology. Like at its very core, it kind of really gives us a clue and insight into who we can be. And there's so many ways to use it. So some people do use it to like make these predictions, but some of us so I've used it to coach, right? Like, okay, so you're a Virgo and you sometimes feel like things have to go. Like I have 2 Virgo clients that I absolutely adore, and they're very like specific, right? Because I joke that Virgo is the rule maker, and I joke that Aquarius is the rule breaker, and Sagittarius doesn't believe in rules. Like the way my experience with my clients, right? So I'm like, okay, Virgo, you love the rules, and I know you want like me to give you a to-do list, but you're here to play with this, so let's try not having rules and trusting. Like something that Virgo gets to learn is faith and trust without proof of evidence.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm a Virgo, so this all relates so much because my word last year was surrender. I love rules. I love knowing what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do it, and then like expecting the right outcome to come from what I did. And, learning to surrender and have faith and have trust is really hard for us little Virgos.
Yeah. And I want to bring in something Marissa said. So we're going through Mercury retrograde, and it's so funny because some people get panicked when Mercury goes into retrograde. It goes into retrograde 3 to 4 times a year. And Marissa, it totally throws me off, but not every time. And the more I've seen astrology as like a guidance tool and like a map rather than like a prediction, I don't feel the retrogrades as much, not in as in I don't get things that don't happen the way I want, but I no longer go, it's Mercury retrograde, it's all going to, have a happy it. It's like, oh, this is why my computer's not working. So now I get to create solutions and understand why this came in my way. Because also I believe that the retrogrades are moments where we're being taught to look at something that we're not looking at. It's like, remember, awareness tools. So sometimes these little planets in the sky go backwards and they kind of like sabotage some things, not because they're being mean, but because it's a moment we're being asked to look and revisit something so that we can move forward more powerfully.
Yeah, that's really cool because we hear that all the time that Mercury's in retrograde, and you're like, oh no, that just means everything's going to be terrible, right? But it's interesting to think about, and we'll get into this in a second. But even when you've done card readings for me, and I love the perspective you take when just say a card comes up that's upside down, which means that it's not in tune with my life. You never look at it like, oh, this is a bad thing. It's like, oh, here's an area where you get to figure out. Oh, here's an area where you get to grow. It means the potential is there for you to have this. It just means that you get to work on it right now, or you get to, you get to grow here. And, instead of looking at retrograde, like you said, of like, oh my gosh, the world's over, looking at it the same way you've always kind of encouraged me to look at the cards or like bad situations. It's like, oh, this is a chance for us to figure it out and grow. Like, I love that perspective.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned through coaching is that our emotions are neutral. So a lot of the times why we go into like, oh my gosh, everything's going to end, is because I feel like one of the things that we are not educated in as a collective is how to manage emotions. I look at emotions even like that. Okay, I'm upset. So I created this coaching course through astrology where we use the planets to kind of coach ourselves through life's breakdown. And in astrology, the moon is our emotions, and we don't like emotions in the modern world. And one of the things I learned through coaching is that emotions are neutral. Emotions are not good and they're not bad. We have positive emotions. We have like great relationships with some, not so great relationships with the other, but all of them are teaching us something. For example, when you have a good emotion, like when you get really excited about something, that's giving you feedback that you want more of that. When you are having a bad emotion about something, that's telling you feedback that there's something there that you get to realign or do differently, or maybe get a new relationship with, rather than, feeling that it's against you, right? We have this experience that bad emotions need to be eliminated, but even those quote unquote perceived bad emotions are just feedback that something's not aligned with who we get to be and where we're going. And that's how I interpret the cards. That's how I interpret astrology. When we stop demonizing and polarizing something as good or bad, and we can start to see what it's telling us beyond that feeling, that's when we start to grow emotionally, personally, and then really stop even having these extreme experiences with those experiences that we don't like.
That's really cool. And I feel like that's been a slow journey I've been on in the last decade, is realizing that life isn't black and white, that things aren't good and bad. And, like I said, I'm a rule person. I like rules. I like knowing what things are. And so for so much of my life, everything went into a bucket of good or bad. And that, whether it was emotions or food, that's either a good food or a bad food, or this action is a good action or a bad action. But like, realizing that there's a whole spectrum and that there actually is no good or bad in so many of these categories that I've always put things in. And it's really cool to think about emotions like that. Like, oh, it's not bad. It's the way I'm feeling. And it's a guide right now, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just telling us something. All it is telling us something. Like, and I think, for some people, they go to the cards or they go to astrology because it is fun to say like, oh, it's in my chart, or oh, it's in the cards. But like, you're like, the more you do this work to relate to your emotions and to seeing things not as like black or white, you become your own oracle, right? Because you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm feeling not great. What is this telling me about myself? Well, I think it's something. It's okay, great. So I get to do this. I get to trust that this is the feedback I'm getting, and that's also why the book is coming out. So the book that I have coming out is a journal on moods, but I love fun. You know me, Lindsay. I go into accents. I pull out cards, and so
Yes.
we can even bring in color to emotions and reprogram our thoughts and our relationship to emotions with colors. So I have a book coming out called This Journal is Your Mood Ring, where I assigned like certain colors, certain subjects and feelings and moods, and like a journal prompt and even an affirmation. So you begin to rewire your relationship with an emotion so that you don't have to see an emotion as a specific way. And you can, also, we love nerding out on like neuroplasticity and the science of emotions. The only way
Mhm.
you can shift your experience is by thinking a new thought. And the more you think that new thought or see things in a different way, the affirmations kind of lead you in that direction.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so when does this new book come out?
February 21st. I'm really excited. And I also manifested this. You know, my sister had a terrible accident 2 years ago, and I helped her rehabilitate her. She had a traumatic brain injury. And so I helped her with affirmations. And when she started kind of coming back to herself, she looked at me and she's like, you should have a journal one day. And I was like, sure, we'll have one. And a few months later, I got approached to write a book about moods and journaling through affirmations, which is how I helped her rehabilitate herself. And
Wow.
ironically, it's coming out on her birthday, not by chance. Not We didn't design it that way.
No way. Oh my gosh. That is really, really cool. Okay, so this is a journal using color, using um, positive affirmations, and it comes out on February 21st. That's so exciting.
It is, and so I just feel like there's so much magic in the world. There's so much magic in yourself, outside of you, all around you. It's.
Mhm.
I have moments where I'm like, we are so lucky. We are all miracles being here and creating in this lifetime.
Absolutely. I love that. And I want to hear more about manifesting because I'm a big believer in manifesting and I know you are as well. Like I want to hear you talk about why you believe in manifesting and why I think it's important because I think we all need to be reminded how magical we really are, and the more you hear people talk about magic and manifesting, the more it kind of sinks in like, yeah, this is real. I can do this too because everybody can be a manifester. So, like, I want you to just talk about it.
I love that you said everyone can be a manifester because I truly believe that everyone can be a manifester. And I already looked up the etymology of this word a long time ago. So manifesting or manifest comes from the Latin manifestus, which means to grab with your hand. Actually, it means
Mm,
to seize with your hand. So when you're in the experience of manifesting, it's not like, oh, I'm manifesting, I'm going to sit and hope the universe gives me this or throws me a bone. It's more of like there is like a co-creation. Like you're believing in and wanting something to be created, but you're also working with something above you, whether you believe in the universe, God, spirit, source, whatever you call something that's beyond us. Even some people don't even believe that, they just believe we're in a quantum field, if you believe in the quantum field. But there's a co-creation, and you
mhm.
get to believe in it for yourself. You get to do a little bit of the work, but you also get to trust that there's something beyond you also working with you to make that happen. And
Yes.
so it's like a co-creation. Sometimes like we want it to look a certain way, like, right? Like had I said, I'm going to have a journal book and I'm going to write it, I'm going to self-publish it and it only can be about this, then I wouldn't have had this gift of this book that I got to write, which was it's not exactly what I imagined, but it was such a gift to write. And it was exactly what I got to write. I manifested the journal but it wasn't exactly how it looked like. And I just knew, because I was clear on my vision of what I wanted to manifest, that I knew when it came into like as an opportunity for me, that it was what I got to do.
Mm,
And I think
that's
some of us block our manifestations because we think it's not in the right package, right? It's not in the right
right.
box. It didn't come with the right ribbon.
Right. No, I think that's so true of like you have to that's where the trust comes in is you put out there the ideas and the things and the dreams you want, but then you have to trust that it could look a little different. It could be a little different than what you've always thought. I love that you said that you're working with someone or something else. You're working with the universe. Like, it kind of gives me this sense when I'm like kind of manifesting, or I'm trying to like almost buoy myself up to believe that something can happen, and I'm in that state. It's really comforting because you feel like you're not alone, and you feel like it's not just you against the world, or you against the industry, or you against whatever. It's like, oh, it's me and a bigger picture and something or someone else, like bringing like magic together, like a team. And suddenly it's a lot less intimidating, and it's that feeling of being alone, it kind of sinks away.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the etymology of the word trust, by the way.
Mm,
Trust is one of my favorite words. So, yeah, I'm always going to lead with my word nerdness.
I love
Trust
it.
comes from Old Norse, which is protection, confidence, and support. So, when you trust, first of all, you believe in yourself, confidence that it's going to happen. You're
Mm,
protected. So, no matter what the outcome is, it is exactly what it gets to be, and no harm can come your way. But there's also support where you're not doing alone. So when you're
mm.
trusting, you believe in it, you know no harm can come your way regardless of the outcome, and you're not doing it alone. And I think a lot of us have been taught to be defensive, do things on your own, keep things a secret. And I think there's so much more manifesting that can happen when we work together with spirit, with God, or with other people too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I have a question about manifesting. We were talking about how it can look different. And what do you think about timing? Is there, and this is a
Ooh.
genuine question, because like, I know sometimes things happen at their own time, they have to, but is there a type of manifesting where it's ever okay to ask for it in a certain time? Or is that kind of just not the rule of manifesting?
That's such a great question. I think for like full-bodied manifesting, we even get to trust the timing,
Yeah.
right? Because
Hmm.
when you because even trying to assign it a time is not trusting that you're being supportive for it to happen the way you want it to happen. And
Hmm.
so, and even like for example, some of us may be like, "Oh, I wanna, make six figures this year,"
Right, right.
and sometimes it could happen in the next month. But because we had the expectation of the year, we kind of delay the manifestation. So I think timing is kind of one of those difficult things too, because I think like in outside of our human bodies, time isn't the concept, and we
Hmm.
put these timelines on ourselves when sometimes I just feel like time is more infinite from like a spiritual perspective, right? And we've been conditioned to, we have to be married by a certain time and have kids by a certain time and make $1 million and have a kid. And here I am, 43. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I know I want to source a husband. I know I want, things to go in a certain way. But when I release the timing of the things that I want, more things opened up for me. It's almost like
Hmm.
when you put the timing, it kind of like, I always envision like imagine holding a hose and like squeezing the hose. So when you put the limit of time, you're squeezing the flow of what could come through the hose, like the flow that's supposed to come to you.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. No, I love that because I too often, like, again, why I was surrendering last year, it was like I need to stop expecting things and hoping for things and putting time on those things. And I love that you said that time is something that's in our reality, but it's not the law of the universe. It's
Mhm.
not. It's a constraint of like this mortality that we're in right now, and this earth and this cycle of like what our planet does. That's how we relate time to, but it kind of limits our perspective to just what we experience every day on this planet versus like what the rest of the universe
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah. These timing expectations almost like rob you of the joy of your journey sometimes if we
Yeah.
like focus on it so much. And I think when you really trust that all is working in your favor, and this is where we go all the way back to the simplicity at the end of the day, is who are you being? Like if
Yeah.
you are being your most highest expression of your most authentic self, then you will be in timing that's exactly right for you.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Well, I want to take a brief pause to listen to a song. You gave some really cool song recommendations. And so let's see, I have three options that you sent me. Tony Jones. The song that you requested wasn't on the AMP app, but I've got Runnin' queued up because I thought that one was really cool. Or we could
Awesome.
do from Marco Megoni, Mi Fidero. So which
And that, well, I like going with Tony Jones because he's in English and it's like affirmation music, but it's also really funny because the Marcos Mengoni song, he's an Italian dude, and the song is called I Will Trust. So
oh
either way, both of those are jams. Tony's amazing, and yeah, I love listening to music. I think music programs us, right? So I love listening
yeah.
to music that has words that program us. So I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust your choice, Lindsay.
Okay, well, I kind of want to play the one that's about trust since that's what we're talking about, even if it's not in English. But so let's go for Marco How do you say it? Mengoni?
Mengoni.
Mengoni. Okay, Marco Mengoni. It's a really cool song. I listened to it before I queued it up. So yeah, and then we'll come back, and I want to talk more about card reading when we get back.
Yeah,
Woohoo! Woohoo! That was a fun song.
it's my jam.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what he's saying, but I like it. But it was nice. I knew it was about trust, so I was into it. So okay, I want to talk about card reading because that's actually the first way I met you. You know, Adina told me my friend's in town, and she would love to do reading for both of us. And like we went to a park, and I remember you did a card reading for me, and it was so cool. And we've done so many since then. And so for someone who's never had a card reading done, I would love for you to talk about just what that means and what it is, at least the way that you do it, because a lot of people do it in different ways. But I'd like to talk about what you think it means and what it is to you.
So for me, cards are these awareness tools, and some people have specific messages. Some people do tarot, which is a very specific methodology, very good for our Virgos. And then they all have messages. And for me, when we're tapping into the cards, when the reader's tapping into the cards, they're basically tapping into their highest self, their highest form of energy, and also connecting with you and trusting that the cards are going to give you the awareness, the message that is going to give you the awareness that you need. A lot of times people come to me when they're for card reading specifically, when they're really in a hard place, when they're like, I have to make a big choice, or I feel like I don't know where to go next. And the cards just always seem, because I trust that the messages that come through are the messages that get to come through, they always have something that helps shift the perspective. I do think there's like a connection to something bigger, right? Trusting that something bigger is helping us guide us to the cards. But at the end of the day, from like a very realistic perspective, it's the mind opening, it's the awareness that opens your mind to what's next, especially if you're in a stuck spot, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think I love that. And I think that it's also, like you said, there's so much of like, oh, something's guiding this, but also it's interesting whenever like you've pulled cards for me and then you tell me what the card represents. Like, oh, this is a card of, new ideas and fertility. Like this could be like it's a time of creation for you, or it could mean like, you kind of tell me just this is what the card represents, and it could mean all these different things. It's interesting how my mind or my gut or my intuition will automatically cling to like this feels like this is what this means for me. And so it's like
Yes.
these tools give you little clues that then allow your mind and your heart and your soul to like say, well, this is what feels true to me. Like, and it kind of helps you just open up these conversations within yourself of like, oh, it makes you think of different things. It's interesting how strong our own intuition is. Like for example, muscle testing. Like when you think of something that you love and you test your muscles, or something that you're excited about, you'll be strong. And then when you think about something that makes you scared or that makes you uncomfortable, you'll be weak. And so it's almost like the cards kind of help you open up and trust not only the universe or like your source of guidance, but it also helps you kind of awaken like thoughts and feelings inside yourself of your own intuition that you get to trust.
Yes, I'm here for that added interpretation. And it all goes back to intuition and interpretation too. Because you can have the same cards and two readers will have two different things to say about it. Because we all have different exposures to life, exposures to experiences. And so someone can see like, and that's how life is too, right? Well, two people can see the same thing and have two different reactions, experiences, relationships with the same inanimate object, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so our interpretation and our intuition are key things in the card reading experience.
Absolutely. And so I feel like you do so many different things, obviously, from like coaching to like just the knowledge that you're spilling all over this podcast is amazing. Like, from your, word knowledge to your just, your expertise in like neuroplasticity. Like, anyways, I love all of it. But I feel like also part of what you do is looking for signs and helping people decipher them. And so what are your beliefs about signs?
I believe that there are signs all around us. I truly do. Like, I believe in signs everywhere. And I believe also in the interpretation, right? I I also joke that my father was from Colombia, and Colombia is a country where like this genre of literature called magical realism was kind of like popularized. And so it's like a genre of literature where like it's a very like real like story, but all of a sudden you have like just these sprinklings of magic, like literal pigs flying or something like materializing out of nowhere. And I
Yeah.
feel like that has been an influence in my life, where I believe that like magic can show up when we least expect it if we believe that the magic is there, right? And so I think there are people who there are signs showing up for them, but they don't believe in signs, and so they're missing the signs. And when my yes, Cortázar, yes, exactly. I also like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and so when my dad passed away, I had moments where I'm like, Dad, show me a sign that you're still with us, right? Because we're always told that our loved ones are with us when they pass away, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, how do I know? Like, where is it? Like, where is this? And I remember right before my dad passed away, he had this passion project of taking this huge styrofoam ball and covering it with pennies. He hot glued gun all these pennies to make this beautiful copper ball. And it was like, he was like a proud little arts and crafts kid. And all of a sudden, I started finding pennies everywhere, like
Oh,
random places, like in on a bus seat next to me when I wasn't looking, at an airport, like at the gas station when I was crying and sad. Like I would just be sad or
yeah.
asking Dad, show me a sign, and the pennies would show up. So,
Oh my
and so
God.
whenever I see them, for me, that's become a sign that my dad's with me on the journey. So like if I'm going to an
Oh,
event or I'm going on a trip, I know he's with me. And
oh, I
that's
love that. Is that something that you still look for now?
Oh my gosh, totally. I have a funny story. There was once where he didn't like I didn't see pennies for like a month, and I remember going to the gas station looking. I'm like, Dad, where are you? What happened? And I get to my destination, and I found a penny. And as I'm picking that one up, I see two more. And as I'm picking that up, I see like another more.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, Dad, cool. Like you came back, cool. Good to see you.
Oh my gosh. I'm obviously such a believer in signs as well. And I think that the powers that be, whether it's your angels or universe, whatever you want to call it, like once they catch on or we catch on to like the things that they're trying to share with us, or once we put a meaning to something like pennies for you as your dad, like it's like you've created a connection and a language that will allow them to, she gets it, okay, so we're going to use this tool for her. It's like me with hummingbirds with my dad, like I see
Oh,
them all over the place, and it's because I've let the universe or I've let God or my angels know that that to me is a sign that will comfort me when I am sad or scared or I need connection to the other side. Like hummingbirds will get me there, or butterflies. Like, and so it's amazing that when you create that language for the other side of something,
mhm.
they'll use it. And I've just found the more you look, the more you pay attention, I mean, obviously, the more you're going to see because they're going to know you're looking, they'll know you're paying attention. And so you're going to see more.
Yeah, yeah, and there's this coaching the distinction that says like humans are meaning making machines, right? And so some people are not going to make meaning out of what we made meaning out of, but we
Right.
came here to create meaning. Things are neutral, and then our life is magical when we give it the meaning of magic. And it doesn't have to be for everyone, but if what you're looking for in this lifetime is magic, it's all around you. This life is a miracle. This like human physical experience is an extreme miracle that we're on a floating rock in an infinite galaxy, being able to share this time and space with each other. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to be like, not only is this like such a random experience, but I'm going to experience the magic in every place that I can experience in it.
Yes, and it's a choice. It's a choice to choose to see life
Mm,
like that. And whenever people are like slightly skeptical about, oh well, there's hummingbirds everywhere, and you're probably making it up. And it's like, well, guess what? I would rather choose to find magic and meaning and like, yeah, create magic in my everyday life and feel connection to my dad than to be skeptical about it and say that that's impossible and that hummingbird's just there to get its food. It's like, no, I'd rather choose to believe in magic personally and to find that sparkle in every day. Like, it makes me happier. Like, why not?
I agree. I agree. I also choose to believe in magic, and I think there are people who think I'm delusional, and I'm okay with that because I know that that's they're living in a world of that choice. And I think that's, when you go back to the Virgo and the surrender and the rules, like some people, they have made this rule in their life that magic
Mhm.
doesn't exist, and who am I to contradict that? But also, I don't need to be influenced by their rules.
Right. It's
But we can coexist. We coexist on this planet somehow.
We all do somehow. So when you get really discouraged, how do you pick yourself up? Because you're so good at helping, your friends and your clients like get through their hard times. But what is it that gets you through those moments when you're like, man, life is not turning out the way I wanted it to this year or this month, or like this goal that I had, this one big thing that I really want, it hasn't happened yet, and it's hard for me to deal with that today. Like, how do you pick yourself up?
Oh, so many things. So first of all, recently I've been going with my word influence, which is, that believing that there's something written in the stars that makes me feel that way. So I've been definitely like saying, what in my chart is going to lift me up or nourish me. I start with nourishing myself, and I nourish myself with what I believe in my chart. So my chart, what nourishes you is the moon, and so my moon is in Taurus, which is all about like creativity and indulgence. So like I might take a nap, or I might favorite jam like we just did before, or I might make myself food. Sometimes like being down, like we neglect our basic self. So I make sure that I'm taking care of myself, but I also go back to what's my core essence, Lindsay, which I said before was connection. I go back to connecting. I'll call a friend, I'll text someone, because I think I start with like self-preservation, which is taking the nap, but then I go into the connection because humans, we're not lone wolves in this planet. And I think
Right.
it's easy to like isolate when we're down, and that doesn't always get us to those points of seeing what we're not seeing, feeling like we're being taken care of, feeling like we're being protected. And so I take a moment for myself, and then I allow myself to be supported in one way or another.
Yeah. Is that natural for you to reach out to other people, or is that something you have to be like, hey, we need to do this?
Oh, it is not natural. It is not
Yeah.
natural. I
Right.
have a few friends on here right now. Like I have my friend Kat Jones, and she'll like literally text me. She's like, I know you're going through it, but I also know that you like to isolate. So I'm just going to remind you that I'm here. And I'll be like, okay, I'll call you. so,
What a
so
good
like,
friend.
yeah, setting those expectations with people too. Like I think sometimes we need to like, identify those people that say, hey, like if you don't hear from me, can you just check in on me? I actually had a friend that did that to me. I had this guy friend who was like going through it, and he's like, I'm not feeling well, and I'm just gonna ask you to just check in on me. And so I spent a few weeks
Mhm.
checking in on him until he was feeling better. And so I
Yeah.
think we get to be vulnerable enough. Like there's a vulnerability that we all get to lean into and say, hey, like it's okay to not feel okay. And also, if you see me not being okay, can you just check in on me?
Yes. And sometimes it's good to set those parameters up when you're in a space where you feel good,
Hmm.
because like you said, I'm the same way. I think almost all of us are for some reason when we're hurting or when we're going through it. We want to isolate. We want to stop we don't want to exercise. We don't want to do the things that are the things we need the most.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think it's so important to set up these little checks and balances for ourselves with friends, with family, whatever, when we're in a good place. Like, hey, if you notice I'm quiet, can you check on me,
Hmm.
um, so I love that. And I think that's really powerful. And you mentioned like you kind of go also to some of your astrology. For somebody who's never dived into the astrology world, where's a good place to start? Would you recommend them like going to a reader, like someone like you who knows how to read their star chart? Would you recommend going to like research, doing it on their own? Like, how would you recommend someone tip their toe in the water with
Oh, I
astrology?
love this question because for me, it's like, well, it depends on the sign because I think there are going to be signs that are like, I can do this and I can figure this out on my own. And they're going to want to do the research. And some people are going to be like, I need someone to help me navigate the system. So it's more of like, if you're like a self-studier, there's so many good books and so many good like YouTube channels and podcasts on astrology. Astrology is so ancient that there's like information everywhere. But it goes back to the interpretation, Lindsay, right? Like the way your sister interpreted for you, also because she knew you, like there's like
Mm-hmm.
this like just ability to, some people have this intuition, some of the readers have an intuition to be like, this doesn't typically need to be the interpretation, but I feel that this is also telling you this message. So sometimes we need an interpreter. So if
Yeah.
someone wants to, sometimes what I say is start with understanding the basic concepts and then go to someone to interpret it for you so you can go a little bit deeper with what you understand the methodology, because there's so much to it. Like astrology, like there's astrocartography, there are literally people who take a chart and put it on the map of the world and be like, these are the places that you would live well on this planet.
Oh, wow.
There's so much that can be done with astrology. And so I think starting with like knowing the basics and then getting someone to interpret you so that you can then start interpreting for yourself is probably a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something that you specifically want to do, like some people do want to be like, I want to know what's going to happen to me in the next year. And so you'll go to someone who do a transit reading. But if you want to know who you are through the stars, then you're going to want to also find an astrologer who is specifically using your chart to help you understand yourself. So it's also about finding the right reader who's going to give you the interpretation you're looking for.
Yes. Yeah. So there's like there's a million ways to get into it, basically, is kind of the short answer here. Um, well, I know that when we were texting yesterday about like what we would talk about, you had said maybe you would pull a card or two for me for this year, which I was really excited about. So do we want to try that?
Yes, I actually pulled two decks, my typical deck of the color card. And I also have someone gave me for my birthday a new deck on colors and words. So I just feel like, colors also impact our emotions. So let's like lead with what colors we can lean on in this year. So
Ooh.
if you want, I typically have whoever is being read just to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth and just connect with any intentions that you want to kind of feel into. And I always say that when you want me to stop shuffling, I'll stop and then we can start putting the cards. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Here we go.
Okay.
So I'll wait for you to tell me to stop.
Stop.
Okay, I'm going to finish the last shuffle and here we go. So it's also really interesting. People shuffle in different ways. But one of the things for me is I need to feel the cards. Every single one that we're about to pull. All right. Ooh, you got a heart chakra card. This is
Yay.
number 49. It's clary sage. Now, clary sage is an herb, and the message on it is euphoria and insight. So when I pull from this deck, I kind of focus on a few things. Like I'm looking at the message, but I'm also seeing what is it like, what chakra. So for those of you that are familiar with the chakras, it's an ancient system that pulls in parts of the energy centers of the body to certain themes. And so the heart chakras obviously are human connections to others, love. And this is an open heart chakra, Lindsay. And it's all about euphoria. And euphoria is like that, like extreme excitement, but there's also an insight. And when I think about insight, I think there's like an inner knowing, and that inner knowing comes from your heart. There's like something your heart knows that's keeping you open to whatever you get to create in the year ahead. Woohoo! And now we're going to pick another card from the second deck, and I'm just going to pull it for you since we already shuffled from the first one. And it's so funny because I remember the first time I ever read from you, I think some pink cards came up, and one of my experiences with these cards is like the colors that come up, people are like, oh, I don't like the color. And usually the color you like the least is usually the color you get to work on the most. And I feel like the more we've like read, the more this has come up like more open.
Yes, well, I think the first few times we did readings, the pink ones were the heart chakra cards were always upside down because I was very guarded in my heart, and I was very I was trying to be open. I thought I was, but I was just so guarded, and I realized that that was actually a very true thing in my life. And I've actually spent the last few years working on like my heart chakra and learning to be more open, learning to trust, learning that feminine side of myself. And then it's cool that in the last year we've done a reading or two and the heart chakras were opened. And I was like, oh my God,
Yes.
work has like, over time, like over years paid off. Because I not only see it in the cards, but I feel it in myself, so it's exciting to be validated by these cards.
And for some people that's what the cards do or astrology does. It gives you the hope or the feeling that you're going in the right direction or that you're on the right path. And here's the funny thing: the second card is a root chakra card, which is red. It's like the root, it's the first chakra in the base of our body, and it's strength. And there's like this column, this like pillar, and it refers to not just like mental strength, it's also emotional strength. So like there's this like when we kind of so interpretation, like some of the interpretations that come up for me is as you keep your heart open, instead of, like you said before, like kind of sometimes shutting down or trying to protect yourself, the more you open your heart and just like get into that knowing of your heart, that inner knowing of your heart, the more you'll create this mental, emotional strength that you can count on for whatever you're creating in your head.
Oh, I love that. I
I
love
think
it.
that's beautiful combination.
Absolutely. And one of our listeners, Zeman, asked if you could pull a card for the listeners. I don't know. Is that
Yes,
possible?
I could pull a card for the listener. So if anyone who's on the call right now, I invite everyone to collectively take a deep breath in. And what I'll do is I'll pull a card from one of the decks for everybody, kind of like for the year ahead. So everyone take a deep breath in, really connect. I'm going to do a collective reading for everyone, kind of making it kind of like the theme for everyone. So my invitation is like all of us are here for a reason, and all of us also get to like there's this thing called shared experiences where like when we're in a group like this and doing this kind of work, we all came here for a reason. We all sourced each other and we all have something that we connect with. And so I think whatever card is going to be pulled is going to be of service for everyone. So here we go. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, I'm going to pull. Here we go. All right, listeners, the card that we got. Oh, it's the strength card again. I'm telling you, yeah. And I shuffled. That was amazing.
That is
So
crazy. It's a big deck of cards.
yeah. Yeah, it's a big deck. They're like 70 cards. So it's a red chakra. So the root chakra is all about security, safety, feeling of belonging, but it's also that strength, like having your feet on the ground. And so in order for all of us on this call to really be grounded and having that feet on the ground and feeling strong, it's not just about your physical body being strong, although for some of us it might be the physical body. I know I get to go back to the gym, but for some of us, it's where do we get to create mental strength? For some of us, is where are we creating emotional strength? So as you navigate this year, know that you get to ground into the parts of you that are strong and build up the other pieces of you that you get to strengthen to really create what you want to create in this lifetime and in this year.
Ooh, I love that. That's so cool. And their grounding is so interesting. Like there really is something to it. Like there was I don't know why I was really nervous before our LA show. It was the last show of the tour this year. I had done the show at that point 26 times. Why was I nervous? I always get a little bit nervous, but like I was a little extra like jittery before the show, and I reached out to my breathwork coach, and I just said, hey, like I'm kind of feeling like a little antsy and kind of jittery. And she told me to just, take a deep breath in and ground into the ground where I was at. She's like, feel the theater that you're in, feel the energy of the space and ground into where you're at. And it was amazing how just breathing and like really focusing on being a part of the place I was in and grounding into it helped me just like connect.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's a lot of power too. I think our root chakra and focusing on grounding in, like we have so many tools that I think will help us with all this anxiety that our world is feeling. If we just listen to our bodies and like have a coach, like someone like yourself that's knowledgeable and can help us know how to handle like these kind of jitters or emotions and learn how to ground, I don't know, and gain that strength.
Yeah, it's a practice because it's a practice. The reason they're coaches or these teachers is because, like I said before, we don't have anyone teaching us emotional intelligence in the
Right.
schools or at a foundation. And a lot of our ancestors, our parents, great grandparents, grandparents, they were taught like, just suck it up and deal, or it's gonna be fine, or you just gotta work through it. And sometimes no, sometimes we have to feel it. We haven't been taught to feel what we're
Yeah.
going through, including like you said before, breathing in and feeling your feet on the ground, connecting to that stage on a physical level and grounding into where you're at in the moment. Our minds pull us out of our bodies a lot
Yes.
and our
Oh,
reality a lot.
so
Yeah.
true. Oh, I love it. Well, thanks for pulling that card for all the listeners. Like a chance to ground into this next year and like lean into our strength and our root and and be strong. I think that's really powerful. And then something we can do individually and as a community. I feel like I get a lot of strength from this community of people. Like you guys help me to ground, and I hope that we all help each other in this journey.
Yeah, and because once again, but just a reminder, the root chakra it's also about community. It's about tribe. It's
Mm,
like the feeling of belonging together. And that's why like I love that, like, yes, there's a request for individuality, but like there's a purpose. We're here together and all of us get to hear a
yeah.
message. And sometimes we get to share that experience. There gets to be an invitation to more shared collective experiences again.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. So cool. Well, let's play one more song before we kind of talk a little bit more and end the conversation. But let's do this is by Tony Jones. And I've never heard of her before, but I was kind of listening through some of her stuff because you recommended her. And it's really cool. It's all affirmation music. Is that
Yeah.
what all her stuff is pretty much?
All of her stuff is like affirmation, like take up space. There's a song that's called like Yay Coins, and it's like just really being confident with money. So like there are different themes, but it's like it is uplifting. I
Yeah.
believe that words are like spells in our lives. And
Mm.
if we're not careful with the words that we're speaking in our minds and to the world, then that forms a reality we're creating. So I love that what she does is like these beautiful intentional words to kind of program us to believe in these higher opportunities.
Oh, I'm such a firm believer in like, yeah, what you surround yourself, what you listen to, what you read, like it sits in your mind and it makes a difference. So let's put some good words in our mind. I just picked one because yeah, the one you recommended wasn't on here,
Yeah.
but this is Run In. So have you heard of that one?
I haven't, no, but that's okay because like everything, I love everything she does.
Okay, well, let's give it a try. We're gonna just we're gonna trust. All
We
right.
trust.
This is
Yeah.
Run In by Tony Jones. Okay, well, that was cool.
Yeah, that was like also affirming, right? That
Yeah,
we get like the only person we get to really work with is ourselves, right? And then
right.
that's how we connect to everyone else. I love
How
that.
much time do we always just like comparing ourselves and looking at what everybody else is doing? Like, I just hate it when I catch myself doing it. I think it's going to be a lifelong journey to learn not to do that.
Oh, can I give you a good etymology for that?
Yes.
Comparison comes from Latin comparare, which actually means to make equal. And what happens is that we're actually using that reflection to make ourselves less or greater than when we're looking at someone else's, like really the parts of us that we want to make equal and not lesser
Mm.
or greater than.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. Yeah. No, that's powerful stuff. It is powerful stuff. Um, So let's see. Before we wrap up this whole conversation, I guess I'm curious, are there any practices that you do on a regular basis, whether it's a daily or a weekly thing, that kind of helps you with your mental health?
Mm. Yes. So it used to be more in like, like an exercise, right? Like where I would my mom and I would do specific moon rituals, like every new and full moon
Oh,
to like really check in with how we're feeling and what we want to create. And there's a moment where like you don't need to do it on specific dates anymore, and you don't need that pen and paper, and you don't need to light the candle. I've gotten to the point where like I have caught myself saying things that are not great about myself. Like maybe I'll
mm,
look in the mirror, I'll be like, oh my God, like I look terrible. And I'll look at myself with more compassion and be like, hey, you didn't sleep at all last night. I've gotten to the practice of speaking to myself kindly and catching myself and like, because like we said before, like for me it's all about like our words and our interpretation. And I think we've been taught to like criticize and judge ourselves, and I'm like, okay, I find myself when I'm in that mental health space of like I'm not feeling great, I immediately practice, how can I see this in a different way? And one of my friends, I don't know if she's here, I think I saw Selena Lozino's, she used to tell me, how can we see this in a more loving way? And so that became my mantra for a while. Like, how can I see this more loving? How can I manifest what I really want to love? And like when I see things from love, including myself, because I think we see other people so lovingly sometimes. And then when it comes to ourselves, we just are so judgmental. And so the practice that I've came into for mental health and just overall well-being is I get to see myself as loving and kindly as I treat everyone, because I love humans. Like I love, so it's so funny, my sister's a dog person. I'm like, I like dogs, I like animals, but like I want to help humans. Like I would rather take a human out on a walk and help them get fresh air and feel better about themselves, and really, and I pour so much into humans that I'm like, well, if I do this for other people and I see other people in this light, I get to see myself that way too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think one of the biggest things that's changed my life is like just awareness, you know, realizing that I a long time ago lived my life on autopilot in a big way in terms of my mental health. Like either I was happy or I was sad, but I didn't really know why, or I didn't even pay attention to why. But suddenly starting to be aware of like, what am I saying to myself? What am I thinking? Like what are the thoughts that stream through my mind? And what is like kind of giving yourself this awareness of actual self and not being on autopilot in your mind. I think is so important to like listen to those words, listen to the meaning and the intention behind them, and say like, hey, no, I deserve better. We don't talk to ourselves like that anymore. Like, you know, that's not fair. Like, I love that. And I think that that's incredibly powerful, that you like when you do think negative thoughts about yourself, what's your kind of way to get out of it?
I witness it. I witness it in the moment. You know, like before the pandemic, I lost 30 pounds. I was loving myself. I was like, let's go, queen. And I gained it all back during the pandemic. And there are moments I'll catch myself and I'm like, you know, you have those thoughts of like, my body is not where I want it to be. It's ugly. It's not attractive. And then I have moments where I'm like, dude, this body still moves. Like I shift into, okay, I see you. Yes, you're not what I expected it to be. And then I start finding the things I love. Like I love my hair. I love, you know, my big booty. Like I accept, you know, it's like really beginning to look at it. And like what we said before, right? Like first it's awareness for you, right? But then we get to accept and integrate. Like I cannot snap my fingers and hope that I'm 30 pounds lighter. And I get to see myself where I am. And so I think when we accept where we are, that's when we create solutions to move to a new place. When that's what, you know, the bypassing comes a lot in the coaching and spiritual world, because some people are like, just positive it out. And you know what, friends, sometimes it's not about just thinking positively. Sometimes you have to sit and see, this does not feel good. Why does not? Oh, it doesn't feel good because I'm not taking care of myself, or I've abandoned myself. Okay, great. I've done this to myself, and now what can I do? But when we start taking actions because it's positive, it's great, but we're not accepting that this is not the state we want to be in, we're just ignoring what the not good feeling is telling us.
Absolutely. Because you're so right that the awareness is literally just step one. You know, you can't, you know, just stop there and be like, wow, I'm being mean to myself. Like, stop that. It's like, okay, well, where are we going to go from here? And I love that. It's like, oh, what am I doing? How can I be a little bit better? You know, and I think so often we feel like if we beat ourselves up over it, that it's going to make us be better, but it doesn't. It doesn't, you know, change anything. It just actually makes us more discouraged. So by like kind of taking a moment to evaluate, like, why am I feeling this way? Is that fair? Okay, you know, maybe some changes need to be made, and that's okay. Like, you know, it's been a hard year. Like, let's start from tomorrow. Like, let's start today. I think that's awesome. So are there any other things that you want to share with us? Like, I've asked you, you know, all kinds of things that I wanted to know, but like, is there anything else that you want to share before we go on? I'd want to remind everybody that your book is coming out. Your journal is coming out on February 21st, I think you said.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that, everybody. I will definitely be checking it out. I love I love journaling and prompts, and especially journals that encourage me to like, with a little bit of something, like a little bit of an assignment, or a little bit like the fact that there's colors involved in it makes me really excited. So everybody stay tuned and look out for that. But is there also, how can people find you? Like you do, obviously you don't live in my city, and I've done sessions with you of like card reading and astrology. And so how can people find you if they want to learn more, or if they want to do a session?
Instagram right now is like where I live social media wise. So I respond to messages. If anyone wants to consider a reading, I definitely do readings online. I do card readings, birth chart readings. I've also created a course. So one of the things that I've been passionate about is we can use astrology to coach ourselves. So I have a course coming out where you can learn how to coach yourself through your own birth chart. So it's not going to teach you astrology 101, but you don't need to know astrology 401 to know it. It kind of guides you into looking into your chart so that you can understand how to coach yourself based on the specific planetary placements. And because I also believe, yeah, I'm sure you have this, Lindsay, that sometimes someone does a reading for you, or sometimes your sister tells you something, you're like, okay, that feels better, but what do I do with this information? And
Right.
so the course kind of combines it. Okay, so yes, okay, so you're a Virgo sun, what do you do with that? Or maybe you have a North Node in Libra, what do I do with that? And so it tells you about the placements, what they mean, but it also tells you how to use it to coach yourself when you're in breakdown.
Yes, I love that. Um, that is so cool. And can you write in the chat your Instagram, just
Oh,
so people can, they can go find you?
yes, I'll write my handle.
Yeah, write
It's
your handle in there, girl. Let's get some traction, because Ilona really is amazing, and she's helped me for sure. Just kind of navigate certain tough times of my life and tough situations, and I do think there is so much power in having, like, there's a lot of different types of therapy out there, and a lot of times people oftentimes they go to just like the typical therapist, and I've found a lot of value from that, but also I've found a lot of value through more of the life coaching style therapy, just someone to kind of help me know how to navigate in a different way. And so anyways, I encourage you guys to like at least check out her stuff. She's so uplifting, and yeah, the things you share are so wise, and and I think help people navigate through the hard times and through the good times too. It's not just about the hard times.
Yeah, it's life is a full spectrum. The good, the bad, and that's the facts of life.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, this has just been so wonderful chatting with you today. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. And I'm going to text you after this, because I want to do a session. I'm like all amped up now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do an astrology session. I want to do a full card reading. It's time. We haven't done one in a minute, and I think that'd be a great way to start the new year. So I'll text you right after this.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for inviting me. What a great way to start the year. We get to download all the good feels and accepting the bad. And together we grow together. We get to do it together, y'all. So don't forget, this is not a lone wolf situation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone who joined us. Like you said, Ilona, what a perfect way to kick off a new year with just some positivity and love all around. So thanks for being here, everybody. Happy New Year. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.